Ladies and gentlemen, let's kick off Season 2 with a light piano arrangement about Baral, Chief of Compliance. I'm so sorry. Quit it now. I cut it out. The multiverse explodes, gathering the mojo. Chandra turned my face into a hole, now my vengeance is cold, with a full stop. Sure to counter all you got, stopping your combo with this little 2-drop. Instant speed tension. I am the first, I am the paragon of 5-card dismissathons. The rugged scar on my face is but a curse. This visage will haunt you. There's nothing worse. Baral is gonna slam ya with the grip of counter spells. Baral is gonna slam ya with the grip of counter spells. Baral is gonna slam ya with the grip of counter spells. Baral is gonna slam ya with the grip of counter spells.
Ah, never mind.
Oh my goodness.
Edit that and make me sound less dumb.
Nope.
Nope, it's only going to be edited to make you sound more dumb, Dean.
That's gonna be our opening stinger.
It's Commander Time! Welcome to Commander Time! We are yet another podcast about the Magic the Gathering format known as Commander. I'm Nate Burgess.
I'm Dean Goody. And Baby.
Yeah, and I'm Patrick Sapola.
Today, we're gonna... let's do that again.
Yeah.
I'm Nate Burgess.
I'm Dean Goody.
And I'm Patrick Sapola.
Today, we're going to talk about resource management. But first, we want to say congratulations.
Hooray!
Yeah, hooray.
Hooray.
We want to say congratulations to Dean. He recently had a baby, Ellison. The Brothers War podcast, Ryan, recently had another baby, Green. And the Commander Cookout podcast, Ryan, had a baby, Penef. Is that right?
Seems right to me.
All right. Oh, there's a note here. Foo guys? Foo guys. Am I reading this right? Foo guys.
Yeah.
I guess they like martial arts.
Yeah.
Congratulations to the Commander cast. They recently had 300 episodes in the past month. Then not all in the past month, but you know what I mean.
That would be quite an accomplishment.
That would be really impressive.
Yeah, Commander Versus, the YouTube channel, they had 100 gameplay episodes of Commander. And the Command Zone passed 100,000 YouTube subscribers. Congratulations.
You guys are doing it, and we'll one day catch up.
Well, we would have to do it faster, and they would have to stop doing it. But we might reach the same milestones. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, right. That's a better way of putting it. Yeah.
All right. In reference to the recent issues of Christine Spranko leaving the community, we here don't consider social justice warrior to be a negative term. If you support and promote toxicity and rudeness in the community, then what I ask you to do is pledge large amounts of money to our Patreon. Not because we agree with your views. We don't. We strongly oppose them. But by pledging 3 or 4 or 5 digits of dollars to our Patreon, you will then have less money. Money that you would otherwise use to buy the things you need to live, like food and internet access. However, maybe, who knows, maybe you are so successful that it won't even make a dent in your lifestyle to throw that money at a podcast. Well, that would really teach us a lesson. Am I right, guys? That would show us.
Oh, yeah.
I would be totally taught.
Yeah.
I would deeply reconsider my deepest held beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in fact, if you pledge over $1,000 to our Patreon, then I will send you a Mr. Plorg signed Monarch token card, so you can show everyone just how much you owned the libs by ruling. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. You also get to draw a card at the end of your end step. So
Hey, it's a win-win.
mm-hmm.
What's your top card? Shall we pick a top card out of Unstable?
I think we should.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Top card from Unstable.
I'll let you know what it is. I know what it is right off the top of my head. My top card from Unstable is Better Than One. This is a sorcery for green and white. A person outside of the game becomes your teammate.
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
It's fun.
If you've ever played Two-Headed Giant, basically you become a Two-Headed Giant with a player outside of the game. You split your library in half. They get a hand of cards from your library. You guys share a life total, and you share a turn. It's pretty weird, but also really cool. Let's see. The reminder text on the card says, choose any number of cards in your hand, on top of your library, or on the battlefield under your control. Those cards become your teammates' hand, library, and permanents respectively. So you pretty much just split your resources in half.
Which is quite apropos. But if you're playing against a mill deck, this seems like a terrible card to play.
Yeah, and if you're playing a combo deck yourself, then you might split your win conditions among the two decks. Just saying. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the card Rules Lawyer. 3 white for a 1/1 cyborg advisor artifact creature. He has the text of state-based actions don't apply to you or other permanents you control, and then a whole bunch of reminder text to tell you what state-based actions are.
That seems like a nightmare for you, your teammates, and any poor judges that happen to be in the room.
I don't know. It seems pretty simple to me. I'll just call over my friend who wants to be a judge and have him deal with it.
Right, simple for you. I don't know. Seems like it could also kind of, I don't know, is it possible that it could grind the game to a halt? Maybe not.
Well, it doesn't apply to me. It applies to everybody else still.
No, I understand.
So it's like a Platinum Angel.
Yeah,
you could
much.
bog the board down with all kinds of stuff, right? Because it doesn't die for reasons.
Mm-hmm. It can still die. It just doesn't die to state-based actions.
Right. So, like, Toxic Deluge does nothing to you.
Right.
And damage does nothing to you.
Yeah, damage doesn't do anything, but destroy effects will.
Right. Your planeswalkers aren't put into the graveyard if they have 0 loyalty. Wow.
Yeah.
Legend rule doesn't apply. Super bizarre. And I don't know, it just seems difficult to deal with.
You have to remember all the rules.
Yeah.
I would say Rules Lawyer would be a kill on sight for me.
Destroy on sight.
Yeah, how do you kill it?
Exile on sight. It's gone.
Yeah,
all right. That works. I like the red-black villains. I think Baron von Count is interesting. It's 1 black-red legendary creature human villain. It's a 3/3, and it has these numbers on it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on the picture. And when it enters the battlefield, you put a doom counter on 5. And whenever you cast a spell with the indicated numeral in its mana cost, text box, power, or toughness, move the doom counter 1 numeral to the left. So
oh my god.
It's like a brain in the jar countdown, sort of.
I didn't even realize what that meant. You actually put it on the art.
Sure.
Wow.
And when the doom counter moves from 1, destroy target player and put the doom counter on 5. The ability is challenging to build around and is very rewarding. If you can win a game with this guy, You can probably do it in one-on-one, but if you can win a game with this guy, you've definitely earned it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It's very interesting.
Text changing spells on Baronfin count get very confusing.
Yeah, so make sure you're hexproof so I can't target you.
Top support cards of Ixalan.
All right, what does this category mean, Patrick? What's the top support card mean?
Well, given the responsibility of choosing this topic, I thought very long and hard about it, and I chose support card, meaning cards that help existing strategies in EDH. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
So, what's an example?
Well, let's say that you have a really sweet tribal humans deck that is not the modern version, but the EDH version. And, oh my goodness, in Ixalan, there's a new land that'll let you tap for any color, so long as it's human, under unclaimed territory. As unclaimed territory enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. You can tap to add colorless to your mana pool, or add 1 mana of any color to cast spells of that creature type.
Okay, so it supports any tribe.
It supports any tribe, but only tribals.
Could support creatureless Voltron if all you're casting is your commander and you don't have other creatures.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because I have a couple of those.
Yeah, because it still taps for colorless on its own, so...
Yeah, so it's kind of like the second copy of Cavern of Souls, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I guess my pick will be Axis of Immortality, which I'm going to say is a support card for Life Matters decks. Life Gain, Life Drain.
Oh, yeah.
I should probably read it, shouldn't I?
Show me what you got.
Axis of Mortality, 4 white for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may have 2 target players exchange life totals.
I haven't seen anyone play that yet.
I haven't personally either. I heard Commander Central talking about a game that they had played against a Life Tricks deck at one of their LGSs. Or maybe it's just their LGS. I don't remember them mentioning this card specifically, but if it was a Life Matters deck, it probably ran stuff like Axis of Mortality.
I know in my friend's Oloro deck it exists. He has not cast it yet, but it's in there.
I want to see it.
Yeah, me too.
All right, my top support card for Ixalan is Direfleet Ravager. Sure, it's 3 black creature orc pirate wizard. It's a 4/4 with menace and death touch, and when it enters the battlefield, each player, even me, loses a third of his or her life rounded up. And I picked this one because it supports my strategy of killing everyone.
Very good. Very good.
Did I do it right?
You did. You did it right, Nate. Bravo.
I was secretly hoping for you to choose Orc as the strategy that you were going to go for.
No, it's the strategy of reducing everyone's life total to 0. I think it supports that strategy. It
works. I mean, he's another copy of Gary or Heartless Hidixu. So, those kind of I'm going to take large chunks of life from people's strategies is definitely supported there.
Yeah. And then Rakdos casts something big.
Yeah. He also supports the... He's another creature that we can add to the 3 creature type tribal.
I think a whole deck of that would probably be anti-tribal.
Yeah.
Or it would have... Yeah. There wouldn't be much synergy between creatures. But there'd be a lot of them.
There'd be a lot of allies, too.
Oh, yeah.
On to the topic at hand.
The main topic.
Yeah. So, Magic the Gathering, at its core, is a resource management game. We have resources, lands, life, cards available to us. And the interplay between those various kinds of resources is what gives Magic the depth it has. We're going to be looking at how different archetypes approach resource management and how to build and play your decks better using them. So we start the game with life and cards.
Yeah, so on your turns, you convert your cards into permanents or other resources. You move your cards between the zones, or you make other cards move between the zones. And by zones, I mean your hand is a zone, library's a zone. The board, the graveyard, exile, and the command zone is a special kind of exile zone. So you use your cards to make other cards go between the zones.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Over the course of the game, you use your resources and the movement of those things between the zones to hopefully win the game. Let's see. Okay, so types of resources. We've got life is the most basic resource. Card advantage. Cards advantage. So under card advantage, there's a couple of different kinds. You could have cards in your hand. You could have cards on the board. You could have virtual card advantage, which is...
What's that mean?
Wikipedia defines virtual card advantage as advantage which can refer to a number of different situations and effects which, while not providing a direct advantage in the number of cards available, changes the value of the cards available to one or both players. So some examples of this specifically would be card selection, stuff like Brainstorm or Ponder, where you get to choose which is the best card, or a tutor, like Demonic Tutor, where you get to just go get a card. What are some other examples that you guys can think of?
I usually will call this card quality. So anything that lets you filter through with like faithless looting. Lets you anything that lets you pick and choose what resources are available to you.
Exactly. It doesn't actually put you up, but it puts you in a better position.
You have the same number of cards, but you get to look at more cards and keep the best ones.
Right. Although in the case of faithless looting, you're down a card.
Oh.
But you're up in quality. It's the
Hopefully. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, or with your Sensei's Divining Top, you can put the best stuff out the top 3 as your next card draw.
Exactly. Right. Some other forms of card advantage are board presence, just having more stuff than somebody else. Mana available, just having more resources to cast and fuel your spells. And another type of a resource is time, or how did you pronounce this, Patrick? Timming E.
Timming E.
So, time/timing, they're probably actually two different resources. Timing, for me, is getting to play things at a more advantageous time for you than your opponents would get. So something like Teferi Mage of Zhalfir. He's a legendary creature, blah-de-blah-de-blah, but the important part that pertains to this is creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield have flash. You can cast them anytime you could cast an instant. There's a couple of other cards like this. Vidalcan Orrery, there's a dragon that does it, and of course Leyline of Anticipation. They let you cast things when you ordinarily wouldn't be able to, thereby improving the quality of your cards. The other category here under timing is actual time, where you trade time for some other resource. Like with Suspend, on Ancestral Vision it has Suspend 4, you pay a blue. Every turn you remove a time counter on it until you remove the last one, and when you do, you get to draw 3 cards. You're trading that time for mana, for the effect of drawing 3 cards. Or Level Up from... which set was this?
Zendikar.
This was originally Zendikar, yeah. So you start with a basic creature, and then you pay mana into it and slowly improve the quality of the creature. Or Mog War Marshal is a card that has Echo, which is an effect that lets you bring a creature in cheaply, and then you have to pay for it again during your next upkeep. So you're sort of trading the time, you're spacing the time out over a couple of turns, or you're delaying the cost.
All right. You're getting a mana discount as long as you wait.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it'll work out for you so long as you're alive.
So stay alive that long. How about extra turns? That counts as time.
Yeah, that does.
Right?
Absolutely. Expropriate, perhaps.
Yes, perhaps.
Maybe.
And also the pacts, right? You cast them for free, and then next turn you have to pay for them. You put off the payment of the card.
Yeah.
Okay. So, moving on to the archetypes and how they actually manage their resources. Up first is everybody's favorite, control.
I like control.
Yeah.
Me too.
I'm actually really bad at control. It's not my favorite at all.
You have to pay attention.
Yeah, I'm not good at that.
I like control as a means to an end.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you like control.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what does control care about? It cares about raw card advantage. It wants to draw as many cards as possible and have as many resources available to it as possible. It tends to care the least about board presence.
I'll take your board.
Yeah, it'll take your board, or frankly, if we were to just look at the battlefield, we would consider that the control player is not scary until you're just going to die.
Usually. There are a couple of control subtypes that are scary from the get-go.
Yeah.
Hashtag no ban list commander braids Cabal minion.
Yeah, Mare Bear's just a 1/1.
Yeah.
She's just sitting there.
You can just ignore her.
Wearing her boots.
Yep. Being cute as can be.
I played against a deck with Mare Bear in it the other
Sweet.
day, Nate. It was not scary because it wasn't actually built around her.
Ah, not sweet. Do you consider removal to be control?
Yes, I do.
It's controlling. Whether or not it leads to a controlled deck is a different discussion.
I'll agree with that, but it is control also. I mean, it's basically a delayed counterspell, right?
Yes.
I suppose.
I consider my mono black Corlash deck to be a Voltron control deck. And all it does is remove.
All right.
Mm-hmm. So, what kinds of control decks are there?
Okay, so going over some archetypes, we took a lot of these concepts from a series of articles on eternalmagic.com. And we'll put a link. They have an introduction on commander archetypes, and then they have a few more articles that go into each one.
There's things like Thief Control, Chaos, Stacks, Pillow Fort, Draw Go is the classic control archetype. There's things like Combo Control and my personal favorite, Tap Out Control.
I enjoy tap out control.
What does tap out control mean?
Tap Out Control is about presenting threats on every single one of your turn until nobody has any answers for your threats anymore, and you win because of it.
Isn't that just aggro, though?
Not exactly.
Not necessarily. You could also be playing something like an enchantment or some other really big spell that your opponents have to deal with, scramble to recover from.
It usually revolves around really big mana spells more than anything else.
So it means you tap out.
Yeah,
That's why they call it tap out control.
Exactly.
My Kineas and... Not my Kineas. My Thrasios and Vile Smasher deck is probably a decent example of tap out control. You're ramping, and then you're just casting gigantic spells on your turn, but you're not really leaving mana up for counter spells on your opponent's turns.
Okay, and that's the opposite of draw go.
Yeah.
Where you're usually trying to play instants on other people's turns.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's all about that resource control, though. In both of these situations, the raw card advantage is still exceedingly important. With draw go, you need to keep your mana open so that you can counterspell things, and eventually put down your threat. And to counterspell things, you need a lot of cards in hand. Whereas tap out control, if you're putting something down on the board each turn and it's getting taken care of, you're going to run out of cards real quick. So you need lots of cards. You need lots of things to do.
Yeah, I think tap out control probably cares more about the mana as a resource, or possibly life if you're using that as a payment. Whereas draw go, as you said, cares more about the card advantage in terms of resource management.
Mm-hmm.
How do these differ in terms of their resource management? In all of these different archetypes.
All right, so thief control, I'm taking your cards. So there's my card advantage. I have one more card and you have one less card.
Yeah.
You're up a card then.
And with stacks, you might have cards, but you can't use them. I can use mine, but you can't use yours.
That's resource denial, right?
It does fall under resource denial, but ultimately with stacks, you need that card advantage engine in order to actually win the game.
Well, yes, card advantage, but it's also a bit of a timing game too. The classic card in the archetype is smokestack, right? And you need to manipulate the triggers on smokestack so that you end up just a little bit ahead of all your opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it seems kind of odd to have chaos listed under control, because the meaning of chaos is the opposite of control. So why is this here?
Well, it's all about building the decks to take advantage of nobody being able to plan ahead. So an excellent example would be Possibility Storm. If you have exactly 2 artifacts in your deck, you can cast one and know you're going to get the other one. And if you built your deck right, you should be able to take advantage of that kind of situation.
Okay. Yeah, that's cute.
So is that using your deck as a resource? Your actual deck build?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's next?
Up next is the antithesis to control. It's aggro.
Boo, hiss.
What does aggro care most about?
Oh.
Board presence. Aggro cares about the board the most, and it cares the least about card advantage. So it is quite literally the opposite of control. An aggro deck is going to look the scariest on the battlefield, and they're probably going to be empty-handed and have no real way to refill that hand. Which is why when an aggro deck has a huge draw engine behind it, it's really scary.
But then is it still an aggro deck?
It's probably shifted into more of a mid-range deck, but that's not the point here.
We'll get
we'll get there.
You're skipping ahead.
Yeah. Dean, stop skipping ahead.
I just asked you a simple question.
No more questions out of you, Dean.
So, what are you committing to the board here with aggro? Creatures, right, to attack with?
That is the most common form of board presence.
Is there another form?
A lot of people have... It's actually a bit of an argument of whether or not burn is considered aggro or not.
Huh.
A lot of people actually consider burn to be a combo deck. Other people consider it to be an aggro deck. I can honestly see the arguments for both. Ultimately, burn is looking to trade resources for people's life. It doesn't really care what the resources are. It just goes for the most efficient answer to the life total.
And ultimately, I guess it's not even really relevant to the discussion too much, because it's really, really hard to build a burn deck for EDH.
There's just so much life that you have to get through.
Yeah.
And so you need a lot of resources to go through all that life. It's the reason why...
Usually involves Perforos.
Yeah.
God of the Forge.
Mm-hmm. There's also... you could also consider tempo-style decks to be at least a creature-light version of aggro decks. They are trading cards in hand for getting through in damage. It's it's not a perfect lineup in terms of non-creature aggro, but it fits in there.
Is aggro pretty much the same all around then? It's just one archetype, or are there subcategories?
Well, you want to have a creature, you want to get it out fast, and you want to hit people with them. You can do that with your commander with Voltron aggro. You try to do 21 points of damage to everybody just with your commander. You could do it with tokens. You could have a big token swarm. That's a kind of aggro if you give everything haste. Locust God is pretty aggro, you think? Right?
Oh, yeah, I would say so.
Let's see. Big aggro? What does that mean?
That's just big, beefy beaters, right? Coming in for the kill.
So, big mana green is a classic big aggro.
Big mana rule.
So dragons?
Yeah,
dragons would work there
for sure.
Omnath, Locust of Rage.
Mm.
Is that big aggro or is that swarm or does it matter? He's going to hit you.
And
you're getting hit.
And it's going to hurt.
Omnath also plays combo, though. It's probably not aggro.
Well, this is the funny thing about all these categories. These are very general.
That's true.
And you can find, and the way we're talking about it is only one way to look at any particular deck. The biggest reason why aggro has a big trouble.
Hang on, there's another type of aggro, linear aggro. So this is like allies or slivers. You get little creatures that help all the other little creatures that come with it, like tribal stuff.
Edgar Markov as well. He kind of does linear and swarm together.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, Edgar's quite nasty.
Mm-hmm. But the reason why aggro tends to have difficulty in EDH is because what it cares about the most is board presence and the life totals of everybody else. There's so much life, and there are so many chances for board wipes. And board wipes will just knock aggro right back to the Stone Age every single time. And
yeah, it's a really fragile archetype in EDH.
Yeah, it works really well in 1v1. It gets a lot tougher in multiplayer.
So you would say that board presence is the weakest type of resource in EDH?
It's the most volatile.
Yeah, I would say it's the most volatile, for sure.
It's the easiest for your opponents to influence.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes actually a lot of sense. Explains yeah, it's one of, and that's why you have to build your aggro decks to combat that in some form with recursion or with any like just mass indestructibility, those kinds of things.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then up next is maybe my specialty is combo. Combo kind of takes everything and turns it on its edge in terms of resource management. It cares most about card quality or virtual card advantage. Meaning,
so you're sorting through those cards and using tutors maybe?
Yep, tutors and filters, anything you can do to get to the particular pieces that will win you the game. In that way, combo doesn't really care about anything else. It cares about getting to that combo. So any resource that they have, they'll use it to get to that point. It's why combo strategies tend to be very linear, is because they're looking to do the one thing.
Would you call this the strongest archetype in EDH?
Yes, with an asterisk.
I'm not sure what your asterisk is, but I would agree overall. I think it's the strongest archetype.
Yes?
Yeah, I think it's the strongest archetype because you can set up a win against multiple opponents, just doing the same thing over and over again. And because you're so linear, you're able to protect your win much easier because you're able to, you know how you're going to be attacked. The asterisk is, it might be the strongest, but it's not necessarily the most fun.
That's definitely true.
Yeah, doesn't it get boring doing the same thing every time?
Well, that's why you need to run a huge Rube Goldberg machine with like 7 moving pieces to make your combo work.
If you make a combo flashier, it's more excusable.
And more fun.
And more difficult to pull off.
Which is why it's fun.
Yeah, it stops being as linear the more pieces there are to a combo. So two card combos, super linear, super powerful. 12 card combos, very difficult and unwieldy.
You do have to watch out for those 12 card combos though, because they can become a dirtle fest.
Oh, yeah.
Where your your time as a resource is your time as a resource becomes a meta resource, and you'll find yourself playing one very long game of EDH for the whole night.
Also, your friends as a resource might stop existing.
Yeah, possibly.
And as such, there are some subcategories of combo. We have things like full combo, where that's the super linear strategy, where the like tier 1 EDH decks come from.
Flash Hulk.
You have one way you're going to win.
Yep. If you food chain combos and things like that, you're going to win that way, and your deck is built to get to that point. Got things like Storm, which is a little bit more volatile, because you're having to cast so many spells, and a lot of that is just going to have to come in through drawing, so you can cast more spells until you get to whatever number of spells cast to storm off. And then aggro-combo.
So what exactly is aggro-combo? Is this like the Angry Omnath that we were talking about before, where Omnath is pumping out those big beefy tokens that can attack, but then it can also switch to a combo where you're continually making more tokens and then sacrificing them to burn people?
That's exactly right. It's the reason why aggro and control were on a line. Combo is the y-axis to the aggro control axis. It's a whole new dimension to work with. So you're able to adjust along that line and still be able to do combo. And speaking of that line of aggro versus control, there's the whole middle area. What could we call that middle area of decks?
You mean in the middle of that range?
Yeah, the middle of the range. It's not quite aggro and it's not quite control. It's somewhere in that mid-range.
Whoa. Did we just name a thing?
I think you did.
Oh.
You're famous, Patrick.
Finally. Finally, I'll be accepted by my peers.
I don't know about that.
Oh.
So, give us a quick spiel about what exactly mid-range is.
They are normally balanced between aggro and control. It can often be described as a step slower than aggro, or a step faster than control. They tend to have good cards. They are often 2-for-1s. So anything that kind of falls into that area. A lot of times an aggro deck, if it's run out of steam, it has to shift to a mid-range plan. And sometimes when a control deck is needing to go on the beatdown, all of a sudden it has to switch to a mid-range plan as well.
Something like Thief Control.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about the different kinds of mid-range we got here.
We've got like a Pain deck. This is kind of like almost like a stacks variant, where instead of directly removing resources, you kind of punish people for using their resources. I play this in a Magus build, where it's all enchantments that hurt everybody for doing things. We've got Good Stuff, which I like the definition that's here, actually. Decks that are low on synergy, but that use cards of great individual power. So that's using those cards that are good for any particular situation, but the deck as a whole isn't terribly cohesive necessarily.
So if you want to make a Good Stuff deck, you just go to EDH Rec and just don't look at the cards, just take the top ones.
Yep.
It's ruining the format, I'm telling you.
Mm.
I'm reading it, but I'm not really sure how to summarize this. Nate, what is true mid-range?
Oh, you take an aggro deck and you add some removal. Sometimes you're on the beatdown, but when you're not, you can take everyone else's stuff out of the picture. Is that right?
That seems about right. That works. Toolbox is something that I played around with in my early days. This is where you have a different card for any given situation, but then you also have a way to get to it. So you might run some tutors or some card selection to get to the correct card that you want, but you're also not running like a lot of one thing necessarily. And you actually might run cards that are really situational, like a Hate Bears deck could be considered a toolbox deck. Group Hug as mid-range. This is where you're manipulating people politically, which is another resource that we didn't talk about managing, but politics is definitely a resource that you could manage. This is where you, I guess you would say you use political favors. You're giving your opponents stuff, you're also giving yourself stuff, and then you're also be able to ramp out threats for everybody, but then you're also hoping to control those threats. Usually, some Group Hug players just play to make the game go for 5 hours straight. Nate, why don't you talk about this one? This is your favorite.
Oh, meta hate is when you look at what everybody else is doing, and then you pick specific cards to make them stop doing it. Like, suppose there's some rule or mechanism in the game that a deck depends on, like the graveyard. Well, nobody has graveyards. Or maybe people need their creatures to enter the battlefield untapped. Or maybe they want their legends to be able to untap. Or stuff like that. Well, maybe your commander doesn't need to tap to do its thing. So throw an Arena of the Ancients in there.
Oh, it's evil. It's evil.
And it's good.
It's very good.
It is a meta resource denial.
It's meta as a resource.
Yeah. If you're not playing green, throw some cards in there that hurt the green decks.
There we go.
Because there's probably going to be some green decks.
And these sorts of decks are not necessarily portable between playgroups.
There's usually a green deck or two.
Usually. And then we've got Voltron Control. This is where you've got your aggro set up, usually on your commander. You've got your one creature that you're going to make extremely powerful, and the rest of the deck is built around supporting that creature and removing threats, but also like hindrances, stuff that could get in the way and block your guy. So my mono black Corlash deck just has kill spells and board wipes, and then some equipment to make Corlash very, very large. To swing in for that 21 points of commander damage.
Mm-hmm.
So why is Corlash not aggro? Why is he Voltron Control instead of Voltron Aggro?
Because he's because of how I don't know exactly. I'm not quite sure the distinction. I mean, I'm running a lot of removal cards, which I guess you wouldn't run necessarily in a straight aggro build. So I'm controlling the board with my kill spells and my board wipes. I'm not allowing my opponents to keep their creatures or really anything else if I can help it. Anything that would get in my way.
So like Drana Calastria Bloodchief. She can drain another player's creature and kill it while gaining a bunch of power and then hitting you with the power.
Yes. That's another Voltron Control commander, I would say.
All right.
Yeah. And there's a few other kinds of strategies that don't really fit in with those four kind of like basic archetypes. And I kind of just gave them the title of resource denial, just because they tend to attack the game as a way to stop people from having any kind of resource. You can kind of consider Burn to be that way.
And Stacks.
And Stacks to be that way, where Stacks doesn't want anybody to have a board presence, and Burn doesn't want anybody to have a life presence.
So it's kind of control.
Yeah, so it is kind of control, but the way you build your deck and how you manage your resources is completely around that strategy and not really interacting with the board or with the other players.
This is less about managing your own resources and more about managing your opponent's resources and making sure that they have fewer resources than you have.
There you go. That's a good way of saying it, Dean.
So it's a type of Stacks.
Not necessarily. I wouldn't necessarily call discard a type of Stacks.
Yeah, so there's discard, which is, a black favorite. If you can keep everybody's hands empty, and they are only going to be drawing the one card a turn, they can only do one thing a turn. And if you can keep that, you're going to be far enough ahead where you're just going to win. That's the plan of discard as a deck archetype. There's also the boogeyman of the format of mass land destruction.
Boogie, boogie, boogie.
Yeah. The reason why it's such a boogeyman is because it's strong across the board. It is like just destroying lands is by far one of the most powerful things you can do in Magic, because lands is a very scarce resource throughout the game.
But it can also slow games to a crawl.
And it makes people feel bad that they can't do anything, and it makes people feel bad that you have to spend the next 20 turns rebuilding your board because the person who killed all the lands didn't finish the job.
I'm doing nothing for longer.
Yep.
I don't know. I would almost rather play against mass land destruction than I would play against Stacks.
We're all doing nothing for longer.
Because once somebody wipes the board, either they're in a strong enough position where they're just going to win, usually, or they've made some error and everyone is set back to turn one, and it just goes draw, land, pass. Whereas Stacks, you're in for a long, grindy, grueling game where you're going to have to sacrifice things in a very particular order, and you're going to regret everything that you have to give up, and it's just going to suck.
It's the feeling of loss with Stacks, I guess. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
You've played something, and you can't use it, and it has to die, and you have to watch it die. And it's your opponent's fault.
And it's going to be slow and drawn out.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's kind of our overview of resource management. If you guys are really interested in hearing more about that, like more specifics, we can always dive deeper into any one of these topics. Just let us know over the intertubes.
Yeah, we talked more about archetypes than we did about resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, we briefly touched on how the archetypes use resources, but not really in depth on any one thing.
Yeah. If we wanted to go real in depth, we would have to pretty much dedicate an episode to each archetype and talk about it in particular and in detail. So just let us know.
Do you want to hear us do one of those or not? Let us know.
We're on Twitter. You can find us there.
If you have feelings, let us know.
Should we talk about our last game?
Sure. Our last game. I don't remember too much of it.
I played my Boros Reanimator deck. It didn't do so great.
The what kind of reanimator?
Boros Reanimator. I just talked about this. I just talked about this in my most recent article. So I think I might be onto something here. Going outside the box of what you would normally do with Boros. It's kind of centered around phoenixes, which can bring themselves back from the graveyard on their own without having to die. And
the phoenixes. Okay.
Yeah, and then using wheels to put them in your graveyard, and then also running Sun Titan, Bishop of Rebirth, and Custody Soulcaller to also reanimate other stuff in your graveyard. and then playing a bunch of cards with converted mana cost 3 or less, a bunch of creatures specifically. When they come into play, they make a token. So you have 2 creatures, and then Adriana, Captain of the Guard, is the commander, and when you attack with all the tokens and whatever, they get, they get boosted for each opponent that you're attacking.
So what kind of archetype is that?
Probably aggro mid-rangey.
I would probably call it a mid-range strategy.
Yeah, I'm trying to use the graveyard as a resource, and then also getting extra resources out of my card. So, like, my single card makes 2 creatures, and then when they attack, they get +X, where X is the number of opponents that I'm attacking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was too slow. It did not fare very well against you guys at all. I need to add in a little bit more ramp, I think, and maybe some, I don't know, cheaper ramp, more mana rocks.
All right, I played Miri Weatherlight Duelist, and she makes a bunch of tokens. I guess it's a mid-range because it's got an aggro swarm, and it's doing tap stuff. And Miri herself is kind of has control aspect abilities by preventing other players from using creatures in combat.
Yeah, You're getting more out of combat than your opponents can.
Trying to.
I was running my angry, my Borborygmos Enraged deck.
Oh, now I remember this.
Okay. So this is a combo aggro deck, right? Or aggro combo?
I
think
I almost consider it just straight combo, to be honest.
Yeah.
You did take some swings with that Borbo, though.
Yeah, but that was only to get more lands for the combo. Yeah, I mean the whole deck revolves about getting lands into my hand to throw at people over and 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 over again.
All your lands are lightning bolt
or more. I won a game with this deck the other night, doing 6 with I think it was Dictate of the Twin Gods out. That's some good eatings.
Some good land throwing.
Just
nummy.
6 at one person, 6 at another person. Oh, so good.
Have an entire forest. Boom.
Now a mountain. And now this terramorphic expanse? Okay. That's what I got.
How would you throw a swamp? Wouldn't it, seep out between your fingers?
Maybe he uses a ladle.
So he's kind of like a catapult or a trebuchet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I ended up winning that game. That was a good.
Yes, you did.
Abundance and Snake Umbra is a heck of a combo.
Abundance is just a good card.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they do?
Abundance lets me choose land or non-land card whenever I would draw a land or draw a card. And if I choose land, I reveal from the top of my library until I reveal a land, and I put that land into my hand. Snake Umbra on Borborygmos says when Borborygmos does damage to an opponent, draw a card. And so I can take a land that's in my hand, I will bolt somebody with it using Borborygmos, and then I get a draw trigger. And then Abundance says, hey, do you want a land or a non-land to put into your hand? And I choose land. And then I do that until everybody's dead.
Or until you run out of lands.
Yeah. Luckily, I have Life from the Loam in there to...
Yeah.
Yeah. Although Life from the Loam and Abundance is a non-bow. Because you can't get a dredge trigger. Because it's a replacement effect of Abundance. So it's not... They're 2 separate combos running in at the same time. But, it's fine.
Well, I'm going to start running Nightmare Incursion, Patrick.
No.
Yep. No more lands
Nope,
for you.
This just in from the rules committee. That's banned.
Citation needed.
So the pets update.
Do 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 do. I can't do music.
The pets update.
It has been discovered that my dog Talon has learned judo. There's been a lot of new puppies coming to his daycare, and he has learned how to actually flip them over his shoulder whenever they're bothering him too much. He'll just just move in such a way where the puppy flips over him, lands on their back, and just looks at him and is just like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you didn't want to play." And then he just wanders off. Nobody's hurt or anything. He just uses their own excitement against them.
Cool.
Is that a form of resource management, Patrick?
Mostly lazy management for my
Using
dog.
their excitement against them?
Yeah, he is the flowing water to their excitement.
For my update, turns out that Hattie loves babies again. She loved Paisley when Paisley was born, and now she loves Ellison a lot. She's always got her nose right up in there. Make sure that we're taking care of him well.
Are you feeding him? Good. Are you licking him? You need to make sure you're licking him.
Yeah, she likes to do that. She likes to take care of that job for us.
Well, that's good.
I guess so.
All right. Hey, you know how cats like empty cardboard boxes?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, if you take an empty cardboard box and you put it inside a slightly larger empty cardboard box, it blows their minds.
Oh my god.
Wow. My mind is blown, actually.
Yeah, they got to look at all parts of it. They got to reach in and between them and see what's in there. And yeah, it's hours of entertainment.
I don't know why I've never thought to do that to my parents' cats before. That sounds amazing. I'm going to go do that when I see them this holiday.
Yeah, they have to be different size boxes though, or else it won't fit.
That seems like a key part of this putting a smaller box inside of a box plan.
Yep.
All right.
Those are our pet updates. You can tweet your pet updates to us at Command Time on Twitter. Nate, edit this together.
Bow. Is it weird that in my head that every podcast should just end in the of from Reading Rainbow?
Yes. Yes, that's weird.
Well, that doesn't stop it from having.
I'm still gonna do it.
Should still be true. You should just end all podcasts with the Reading Rainbow, cut between segments sound.
All right, Nate, get on it.
Yeah, I'll put that on my list. Sure. Visit us at patreon.com/commandertime.
You can find me on Twitter at Grubfellow.
At Detective Yarmits.
At Mr. Plorg. Skype is doing some interesting things with your audio.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dean.
What is it doing?
It's kind of funny, actually.
I mean, it's good that we have the show planned so we can pretend that we can follow along.
Just so long as my recording is good.
Yeah.
I'll laugh really hard if the recording is actually what we're hearing. Oh my god.
What does it sound like?
Well, you slow down and then all of a sudden it catches all up at once and then you're at parity with us again.
Oh,
so you'll just be like so it's just
you're sometimes breaking up, yeah.
You're breaking up.
And then we gotta try to figure out what you said. And politely go, yeah, good point. Yes.
Okay, I'll list them off.
I agree.
A blanket statement.
I'm not sure what you just said, but I'm sure it was beautiful.
If I've caught up to you guys on Skype, I was gonna say